Hey, what's up, New Soul Church? I am here and I want to introduce a guest all the way from Sydney, Australia. We have Lee Burns, who is the Executive Vice President of Hillsong College. And yeah, I'm going to let him introduce himself and kind of tell us a little bit about himself and go from there.
Well, hi, everyone. It's a huge honor to be with you tonight. As Matt just said, my name's Lee Burns. I am married to Cherie Burns, have been married for 22 years this year. We have 3 children. I've got a 20-year-old son, an 18-year-old son, and a 12-year-old little girl.
Wow.
I have been on staff with Hillsong Church now for 23 years. My wife has been on staff with Hillsong Church for 27 years and been in church for 30 years. And so we love church. For us, it's the greatest thing ever, I believe. It's our people group. And so the thing I love most about church is wherever you go around the world, you always run into family. And
I love that.
It's good.
I think that's the way it should be. I think that was always the vision of the Book of Acts. And so, yeah, I was meant to be there in March, but unfortunately missed that opportunity due to this COVID situation. But it is a huge honor to be here now with you all, and I'm believing that the second half of the year that we'll continue to see the church grow, that we'll continue to see the church gather, continue to see the kingdom of God expand. And at the moment over here in Australia, the COVID situation is, I think, we didn't get hit hard in Australia, to be honest with you. We never had more than 7,000 cases in the nation. We've got 25 million people here in Australia. At the moment, we've got around 400 cases in Australia. And so it's dropping off very quickly every day. And so we are believing that to come through this thing very quickly and get on with the second half of the year, regathering as a church. And I just love gathering. There is nothing better in gathering than worshiping together, than the conversation before church, after church, sometimes during church. But,
absolutely.
I'm gathering in church, and so we'll be following the American lead very soon, I hope.
Yeah, we just started church. I think I was telling you before, but just 3 weeks ago, and it's been good. I love church, and I love being in the room. I love worshiping with people. And like you said, just shaking hands, hugging. Man, COVID's been hard for me. I'm not going to lie, because I naturally, I love being around people. And I love doing church with people and living life with people. And so that's been a bit of interesting. But, man, I'm believing we're going to go, we'll have church again, and it's going to be better than ever. And that God, man, is going to have his way and move even through all of this.
Amen.
And I wanted to talk specifically and ask some questions tonight on the area of personal leadership. And personal leadership isn't like a phrase that I think that we would use like in everyday language. It's not something that I think most people probably even really think about, but it's such an important aspect of your life, and whether people realize it or not. And so maybe I just thought I'd first ask for maybe those who don't know or have never even really thought about the term personal leadership, like what is personal leadership and how does that affect your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. But I mean, the 2 words alone can go 2 ways. Obviously, the personal side of it is that ability to, I think, address your own strengths and your own weaknesses. I honestly believe as a leader, and this is something that I would get from Pastor Brian Houston, our senior pastor, that you stay true to your strengths and gather people that can strengthen your weaknesses.
It's good.
It's a bit like a marriage. You always marry your opposite, or most people will marry their opposite because the one thing that they find attractive in a partner is their strengths will complement their weaknesses. Same thing I believe in church life. Same thing I believe when it comes to personal leadership. If you know your strengths, then you'll know other people to bring on team to help complement your weaknesses. It's a theory in business called employee weakness. And so, but in that, personally, you've got to know your strengths. And so, there's 1,000 gift assessments and all that out there. One of the ones that has been revolutionary for not only myself, but Cherie as well. And also our understanding of one another has been Strength Finder. You know, like jump online, and I think it's $50. And, you know, it'll rattle off 34 strengths and then tell you what they are and how they function and everything like that. Well, I did that back in 2010 when I was the principal at Hillsong, and then I did it again in 2017 after taking on the college because I wanted to see if there was any change. And there was only one strength that changed, that dropped from like number 5 down to number 8, and number 8 went up to number 5. And so I was quite fascinated with how brilliant that was. And then as I went through and looked at each one, I also got our team to do it. And as we went through and looked at one another and where we stand, we found it quite fascinating that God brought us all together to do this journey together, you know.
Yeah.
It helped me appreciate others, and not only appreciate others, but in that, understand myself a whole lot more as well. So personal leadership, I believe, is growing your personal capacity ultimately, but it has to have a knock-on effect to others around you as well. I always say you never get small building big people. You only ever get bigger in growing other people's capacity. And sometimes with the personal leadership side of it, we focus a lot on ourselves. You know, me, the leader. Am I getting a doctorate? Am I getting a title? Am I getting a qualification? And all of that is what is known, obviously, as human capital, investing in myself. But then there's social capital, which is investing in others. And I actually believe that the church, I believe the world would be a better place if we focus more on others than we actually focus on ourselves. Now, that's not saying that we shouldn't grow ourselves and everything like that. It's just I always find focusing on others, building others, growing others, that you always grow as a result in leadership of growing others.
So I love that idea, just to kind of like summarize, is the idea of growing yourself, but not just for the sake of yourself, but to grow others. And kind of making that the idea around personal leadership is you want to grow yourself, but not just so you can, and it's good, right? You want to grow yourself. It's a great aspect. It's something to do in life, but also with a vision that life is about others, and that you grow yourself so that you can grow your capacity to lead others, influence others, make a difference in other people's life. I love that idea. Like, what are some things for yourself that you feel like you've done or maybe practiced in your life to develop your own personal leadership, develop your gifts, your skill sets, your character? I think that's a huge aspect of personal leadership. What are some things that maybe you've done or practiced to do that?
Yeah, people always ask me, Lee, what book would be your favorite book of all time, you know? And my answer is always whichever book I needed at the time. And so I'm not one of those, right, this year I'm going to grow in this area or whatever it may be. I mean, I'm still doing doctoral work. So I'll always be studying and growing in that area. But I feel like the more and this is why I love the church so much, the more you're around others, the more you learn about yourself. For me, and you would have heard me say this 1,000 times in class here, offense, I think, is your biggest teacher, because sometimes, you go to church, you get offended by people. And I always ask the question, well, what is God saying to me here? And whenever I felt offended or anything like that, I always found that it was God kind of putting his finger in my heart going, Lee, you need to get a little bit bigger in this area. If you're going to do all that I'm calling you to, this is how you get bigger. And so after a while, I learned, and you've heard me teach on this 1,000 times, to be unoffendable. So, most of the time we, certainly as the church, I mean, we are family, I believe, 100%.
Yeah.
And we need to operate as family as well, coming into church on weekends and connect groups and all of that sort of stuff. We function as family. And, I've got kids, and my youngest two, I don't know what it is with those two, but they just go head to head all the time. And they, they call each other names, they offend one another, they get in one another's face, but they never leave the family. Like, neither kid has gone, right, that's it, I'm offended, I'm leaving the Burns family. They grow each other, they build as a result, they get over it, they wake up the next morning, move on with their day. And I believe as the church, one of your biggest teachers is always offense. It's one of those opportunities to go, why did that hurt? And like I said, after a while, you stop trying to avoid it and you start to embrace it, because every time you step above it, you only get bigger as a result. So I think offense is always one of those big ones. When it comes to learning, I remember being in a lift one time with Pastor Brian, and I was looking after a particular ministry, and I mean the lift only went 2 levels, and I remember he kind of told me about this area that I was overseeing. He kind of spoke quite direct to me about it, and because for him he's only got 20 seconds to say something, and I just remember sitting there as a young pastor thinking, oh my goodness, like feel like he just skinned me alive, sort of thing. Which is not his heart at all. But then we get to the top of the lift, and he kind of just, gives me a bump on the shoulder, and he goes, "So how's the family going?" And I was like,
"You're bleeding."
Exactly. You just widowed my wife, and my kids no longer have a father. But I still remember that day so clearly, and Brian's never brought it up ever since. Because he doesn't hold grudges. And so that day I learned very quickly that big leaders don't have time to hold grudges on people. They just call it how it is and then move on. And I remember sitting there thinking, gosh, I just got rebuked from, for me, one of the greatest leaders in the world. And,
wow.
And it reminded me of that passage of scripture where Jesus rebukes Peter and says, "Get behind me, Satan," And I thought to myself, man, why did Peter get rebuked from Jesus? Because he was close to Jesus. And I thought there would be a million young people that would give their left leg to cop the rebuke that I just copped.
Come on. Next time I rebuke you, church, remember? Remember this saying, staff, where y'all at? Where's my staff at? I'm just kidding. I love that.
Sometimes we need it. But again, it's that growing personally, I think, is not all the great stuff. It's also the stuff that challenges your heart. And again, 9 times out of 10, it's just God going, hey, you need to get bigger in this area, because if you can get bigger in this area, you can grow others in this area. And so I love the leadership lessons along the way. That's, again, why I love turning up to church. Brian always says, if you've not been offended at Hillsong Church, come next week. And
I love that.
It's, again, but it's family, it's fun, it's awesome. We all grow as a result, and that's why I believe there is no other people group on the face of the earth like the church.
One of the things I was thinking about for myself as you were speaking is I feel like I've really grown in my capacity as a leader and my ability to lead by just simply being willing to try new things. And I remember when I was a teenager, you get those words, people like, you would make a great pastor one day. And I had no desire to be a pastor. I was like, no, I want to be a businessman. I don't know. I just knew I didn't want to do that, and here I am, right? But one of the things I discovered is I started leading a small group. I think I was 17 years old, and I started leading like a connect group, a small group. And I realized I was just meeting with a bunch of teenagers, and like something inside of me just, man, I was like, I love this. I love pouring into these guys. I love spending time with them. I love teaching them the Bible. And for me, I feel like so many times being willing to just experiment and try things. And that hasn't always worked. Like I've done things and I'm like, nah, that was not for me at all, But I think I've been willing to try things that are outside of my comfort zone. And I think that's how growth happens. Like growth is, I think we think about growth is, it's kind of uncomfortable. Right? Offense is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at a balloon. how do you grow a balloon? By expanding the capacity. How do you expand capacity? By putting more pressure in it. And often in life, we're trying to get pressure off us, but sometimes I believe God is putting pressure on us so that it'll expand our capacity to be able to lead. And so, and stress as well, like sometimes we get stressed, but I believe that stress sometimes is simply come on, you need to get bigger in this area. And rather than try and get rid of it, embrace it and grow bigger as a result of it. And so, again, it's life's lessons. Every day you get to learn something new about someone or learn something about yourself. And absolutely, I without a doubt, I believe that, jumping into areas where you're not good. I mean, you may be serving in an area and you've just got this thing down pat, and it's amazing and it's flourishing. We'll jump in an area that's going to challenge you a little bit.
Yeah.
For me, coming into pastoral care, the first 5 years of ministry, Cherie and I worked in pastoral care, and I'm a carpenter by trade. I'm a builder. And I was the foreman of our work site. And so I was the one that made things happen, that always told me what to do, how to do it, and everything like that. Coming into pastoral care, 3 years later after I finished college, my goodness, it was a challenge for me, when I first started, it was like, oh, yeah, just do this. But then I realized that it's not that easy, and Cherie, my wife, who is still in pastoral care, she's always been in pastoral care now for 26 years. She helped me a lot understand people, she helped me listen. Like, I didn't know listening was a thing. I just thought, got a problem, ask a question, I'll give you an answer. But Cherie taught me that sometimes just listening is the answer. And I'm like, what? Really? Is that a thing? And so for me, pastoral care, the first 5 years really developed a heart for people that I never had, that I thought I did in college, but to walk with people and become that, what is known as an empathetic leader. Empathy is that ability to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. And so not sympathy, as in you come down to the person's level, but empathy, as in you strengthen their weakness and walk with them in that situation. And so learning to be more empathetic as a leader was a real big one for me. And the only way I could develop that and cultivate those characteristics was to be around people that, were in a hurting situation or in an unhealthy situation and help develop that person to a point of health. And so, for me, that was probably one of my biggest challenges, but I think if I didn't get that right back then, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. Is I felt like I started off as a youth pastor probably about 10 years ago, maybe more than that now. Probably 10, 12 years ago, I started as a youth pastor, and I was kind of the same way. I was like, just lay the hammer, like, boom, you got a problem? Jesus, fix it. I don't know, I was very direct. And so I ended up in my pastor's office all the time and getting some light spankings, needless to say. And I got a lot of rebukes in my younger years because I was zealous but not very mature. And it's, that's part of the process, I guess. But I was thinking about that. I actually had a pretty cool Hillsong college story I was thinking about as you're telling about stepping outside your comfort zone and growing. Is when I first went out there, I already went out. I had done ministry for several years. I had a career, made good money back home. And so I don't know, in my crazy mind, I thought, we go to college, I'll get a good job, life will be easy. And I have a degree. And so I walked in and I think I applied 50 places. I'm a go-getter. So I applied, walked door to door. And I think I applied 50 places and I didn't get a single job. I think I'd gotten one interview. And so I was like, man, what am I going to do? And so anyway, I finally get offered a job waiting tables at a restaurant. And I remember kind of being a little bit bitter with God, be like, God, I did 5 years of school, moved to Australia, and I'm back to waiting tables. And I remember I was like, as soon as I'm able to get out of this position, I'm out. But crazy enough, I actually learned as I was there I loved it. I was like, I actually kind of like this. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. It's not like my perfect world, but there's something in it. And I don't remember whose class I was sitting in. I just remember it was in one of the lectures. They were looking up. They gave me the Greek word for ministry, and it meant one who waits tables, like the actual literal translation. And I just felt like the Holy Spirit just dropped into my spirit right now. He's like, I am sent you to ministry school, and you're here to learn how to grow in that. And I actually felt like my time in Australia, I learned from church, I learned from college, but I also had a job. And I felt like that was such a good opportunity that, like, it doesn't matter that I had a 5-year degree. It didn't matter what I had done. You're called to serve. And I think that was my lesson. And I began to realize as you said, my personal leadership, it's all about serving others. And I think that's some of the capacity, you're talking about, learning pastoral care, learning all those things. Well, it's about serving others in whatever situation and where they're at. That's ministry, right? And that's really serving Jesus, like following the Lord. So
100%. It's serving God is obviously in the New Testament. It is serving others. If you serve God, you'll serve others. If you ever get to a point where you're like, oh no, I've graduated beyond that level of service, you're well below the level of leadership in Christian ministry, I believe, because when did you ever hear Jesus go, oh no, I'm beyond that, right down to the foot washing. And so serving people is exactly what church is about, serving God, serving people, and also allowing that relationship you have with God to spill out into the lives of others, which is why I believe often in leadership I talked about being empathetic. Another one is also being enthusiastic, and it comes from the Greek word entheos, and so in Him or in God, and being in Him and Him in you then spills out into the relationships with others. And that's enthusiastic leaders, they're just so magnetic. You always want to be around them. They're super positive, always seeing, there could be the worst situation. They always see it from a positive point of view. And again, I believe that for us as leaders, this is where prayer life is so important, because it puts our head up into eternity with our feet still on earth, and we see things from a God perspective, and so for me, that enthusiasm, that life that spills out of people, again, where else do you get that other than church? People passionate about God, passionate about relationship with God. I love being down in Brazil, in South America, and Buenos Aires. Those guys are crazy in worship.
Wow.
You look around, and tears rolling down people's eyes. And then when it comes to, finishing off in a song, they just go nuts. And you're like, gosh, like, this is the church. This is, I love it so much. And so I do believe as leaders, of course, we always have to be enthusiastic with what we're doing, enthusiastic with, again, bringing the life that we receive from God to our people and allowing them to grow in that process as well. And so, yeah.
On a slightly different vein, I think I was telling you before, we've been dealing with the coronavirus stuff, and it's been pretty hardcore here in so many different aspects. We had a hardcore stay-at-home order. Pretty much, you couldn't go anywhere but the grocery store for almost 3 months. And so I think during that time, people lost jobs and all that stuff. But how do you, in challenging seasons? I think for so many people, it's been a challenging season for people emotionally, financially, mental health even, I think is a pretty big issue. But what are some things that you can do to continue to grow your leadership or grow your personal, your inner man, whatever that may be? How do you continue to develop yourself in a season that's hard, in a season that's challenging?
Yeah. I don't know that there's too many seasons in life that aren't challenging, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you look at, summer is always a season of harvest. Autumn is always, or fall, I think you call it, is always a season of loss. Winter is always a season of resting. And then you got spring, which is always new growth. If you look at those 4 seasons alone, I always find that if if you know what season you're in, then you'll know what season is coming.
Mm.
You know, for me, the COVID situation, it reminded me of a story in the Bible of Philemon, the book of Philemon. You know, you've got Philemon who owns a house. You've got a slave of his, Onesimus, who ran away and somehow got saved under Paul's ministry. And Paul sends him back to Philemon to take responsibility for what he did. And Paul does his little, in verse 15 of Philemon, he says his little word, he says, perhaps, maybe. God allowed this situation to happen, or allowed Onesimus to be separated from you, that you may have him back for good.
Yeah.
It's the perhaps. Like, you've got this situation that it shouldn't have happened. It was wrong. But then Paul's going, well, maybe the mystery of God was this would happen so that everything or relations would get better. And I challenged our staff in this one that I do believe that, you know, with this COVID situation, maybe, just maybe, God allowed it to happen so that the church understood, yes, we can be connected online, but it doesn't even compare to gathering in an auditorium, to worshiping together, to hearing the word together, to be ministering together. And so I kind of challenged our staff, hey, what is the maybe in this one? What are we learning in this season that we're in? And COVID, like, I'm with you, COVID was awesome for the first 4 weeks. You're like, yes, you know, give me, you know, and I'm one of those guys that likes to get away and just think on my own.
Yeah.
But 4 weeks later, I really miss gathering in classroom with students. I really miss gathering as a church. So many things that we missed, and I'm still missing. But again, it's only a season. I do believe the season will come where we regather, but I'm believing that when we regather, that the appreciation of the church, the love for the church, the enthusiasm goes to a whole nother level, that we've had time to contemplate, okay, what is the church about? Now, this is why I love it so much. And I'm believing that as Hillsong Church gathers, again, we're not where America's at the moment. We're not allowed to gather at this point. But I'm believing that when we do, that we come together bigger and better than ever before. We have an appreciation for one another than ever before. And the kingdom of God will continue to expand as a result of regathering. And so maybe God's allowed this season for the church to get an eternal perspective, or get a godly perspective on the mission that we're called to as the church. And that's what I'm believing for in this season. As a leader, I believe seasons will always come, and we've always got to ask ourselves, how do we keep leading people through this? But like I said, at the moment, COVID is like a winter season. The winter season is when the roots go down. Nothing looks like it's happening on the surface, but it's all happening in the unseen. And I believe that for Australia, certainly for our church here in Australia, that's where we're at the moment. You don't know what's going. You don't know if people are growing. You don't know if people are connecting. You just don't know. It's like this complete winter season. But the day will come where we can regather, and I think we'll see spring new fruit begins to arise, and things start to grow in ways that we never thought possible, and, you know, which will take us into summer for a great harvest season. So that's what I'm believing for at the moment. When it comes to leading through this season. I never picked it. I never thought it was going to happen, but I've learned a lot as a result. As a leader, I've learned a lot about the internet. You know, we at Hillsong Church, we call it one house, many rooms. But as of March, I think we're one house, many Zooms.
Zooms. Oh man, Zoom. I ain't gonna lie. I'm looking forward to the day that I forget the name Zoom. And man, I'm not.
You are 100%.
We only have to do Zoom because all the non-FaceTime people out there, the non-iPhone people. Come on, y'all. You got to get with the times. I'm just kidding. Just messing with you. But no, I think you're right. And you know, I'm completely honest. There's been so much good in this season, but some of the season's been hard, even for me. Like I I can't say that I've woke up every day and I'm like, oh man, another day of COVID and quarantine. Woo, let's do this. And you know, like I wish I was. I'm pretty optimistic, to be honest, but not quite that optimistic. And but one of the things I was thinking about is I believe, and I can even sense that I'm better. I'm going to leave this season better. That's been my determination personally. I'm going to be a better leader. I'm going to be a better pastor. I'm going to be a better steward of our resources. I'm going to be better in my marriage. I'm going to be better with my kids. Like I've just decided if I'm going to go through something, I'm going to learn and grow from it. And even us as a church, I was telling you before, man, our ability to do technology and stream and all that online. I mean, we have learned, and you guys, I know as a college, you've gone online, which wasn't something that was there before. And
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So I think when it's over, if we're smart, we've grown, right? Yeah. Why go through a trial? Why go through a tough situation and not get something from it, right? And
I'm with you 100%. Like I said, don't try and avoid the season. Embrace the season and get everything out of the season that you're in. Challenge and all, because growth always comes in every season. It's just, again, whether it's seen or whether it's just starting to sprout or whether it's ready to harvest. And so, yeah, leadership and seasons is a whole nother message, obviously. But I have enjoyed the season. I've enjoyed. Zoom has been incredible. You know, I've been doing classes in Kiev.
Yeah.
I've been doing classes over there in Phoenix. Been doing classes in South Africa. Been doing leadership stuff down in South America. And so I've done more. I feel like I've done basically 1 year's work in 12 weeks.
So you need a vacation, is what you're telling me? No,
I'm ready for a vacation.
I'm just messing with you.
I just can't get out of Australia right now. Otherwise, I would go to Phoenix and play some golf.
Play some golf. Yeah, no, I love that word about seasons. I don't know if you remember this, but when I was at college, I don't know if you'll believe me on this story, but it was a chapel service, and I was in chapel, and as soon as I walked in the door, I just felt a clear word from God, and I felt like the Holy Spirit spoke to me. Leah's going to call you on stage today.
I remember.
And so I was in a bit of a funky season, I'll be honest. It was just like a season in life. I just was like, man, I just want to not be seen. I just want to I don't know. It was just my thing at the moment, apparently. And so anyway, I sat in the back. I was like, I'm going to sit in the back. I'm going to duck down. And so even worship, I didn't even stand, which is not me at all. Like, I'm a worshiper. And so I was like, I'm going to sit so no one can see me. I was like Saul in the luggage, you know what I'm talking about? And so I was hiding. And sure enough, you walk on the stage. I don't know how you found me, but you called me on stage and you're like, I want you to give a prophetic word. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this happened to me. So anyway, I want to put you on the spot a little bit today. And, we're going to hear a bunch of our people here at church are going to, be watching this. And I'd love you to just give us a word as a church and speak to us and give us a word today.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well,
I reversed it.
With that one, right?
Caught back up with you.
Yeah, I always like doing that to others because I'm in control.
Yeah.
I see exactly what you just did.
Yeah.
I do remember doing that to you. I don't remember why, other than probably you're the only one sitting down in worship.
Probably. It's like, what is wrong with this guy? I was running. And I was like, maybe I ate some bad pizza or something. I was thinking I wasn't God, but just in case, I'm hiding, you know.
It's you know what, it's amazing the amount of students that would tell me that same story, you know, all the different years and chapels that I do that to people, and for me, it's always one of those, I always tell them to prophesy, but I don't mind if they encourage. People always ask me, where's the line between what is encouragement and what is prophetic? And I keep telling people, as long as you're encouraging, you will step into the prophetic. Where the line is, I don't know. I just know you don't get either of them out in the world, but we need both in the church.
Love that.
I believe for this season where you guys are in as a church, I think there's three things that God would want us to probably consider and think through as we continue to come back and regather. Firstly, without a doubt, gathering is empowering. And when we gather together, when we speak, again, like never underestimate a corridor conversation or a front foyer conversation over coffee. Like you just don't know somebody's life. I believe as a leadership team, we always need to be empowering. I tell this story, you would have heard it in college, about the Walls team. Here at the Hills Center, we've got a massive auditorium and it shuts off into classrooms throughout the week. And back when the building was first built, we had this Walls team which caught up from 10 p.m. at night to midnight and moved these walls that are like 150 kilos each. What's that, like 330 pounds?
Yep.
And the tracks used to break. And so it was just, it kept you in prayer. But when we first started the team, I had a Latino leader on my team. And, his name's Chris Mendez. He now runs Hillsong South America. And he handed the team over to this young guy named Jonathan. And he pulled a team together to move these walls. And a couple of weeks into that, I had students coming to me going, hey, we want to join the Walls team. And they're coming out of choir. They're coming to Hillsong College to do worship. And now they want to go onto the Walls team. And I'm like, what? Okay, let's do that, And so I made the necessary changes. And then after a few more weeks, a few more people, after a while, I was like, what is going on the Walls team? So I sat back one night and listened to what was going on. And they come together as a group. They held hands. And Jonathan prays for them. And Jonathan prays, God, it is an honor to do what we do. Thank you for entrusting us with this opportunity to move the walls in your sanctuary, that as a result of what we do tonight, tomorrow, when college meets in these classrooms, that lives will be changed, and marriages will be changed, the kingdom of God will be expanded, cities will be changed. And at the end of the prayer, I was like, oh my goodness, like, what perspective? Like,
wow.
No one has a clue who this team is. No one has a clue how these walls move. But we got this young leader who's so empowering. Then at the end of the night, they regathered, and Jono goes to one of the guys, Matthias, why don't you finish us off? And so Matthias just begins to pray. He's from Sweden, so he's like, oh, Jesus. Oh. And then he just steps into the middle of this group and begins to prophesy over every one of those students that were in the team. And, today Matthias is one of our pastors up there in Stockholm. Jonathan's on staff here in college. Reed and Jess Bogart are running Hillsong Dallas. Every one of the people in that team are today in ministry. And that all came from a team that wasn't, all right, let's just move the walls. This is what we do. They changed it from this. It's not about what we do; it's who we're becoming. And they were able to take this job and go, we're not doing it for the applause of man. We're doing it for the applause of God. And to see where they are today is just incredible. And so I believe that as team leaders, we've got to be empowering. The second one, we've got to be encouraging. Always putting courage into people. God said to Joshua, be strong and courageous.
Yep.
And sometimes courage isn't those big steps where we step out of the boat. Sometimes it's just small steps that continue to take us forward. But I do believe that as leaders, we've always got to be encouraging. When people come onto our teams on Sundays or during the week, you don't know what sort of week they've had, but I believe that if they've come in contact with you, they should always walk away encouraged, feeling better about themselves. And when you've got courage, you'll always take ground. And so we've got to be empowering, we've got to be encouraging, and the third one, we've got to be entrusting. And trusting someone with an area, trusting someone to do something, which often times in church life, and this happened to me early in ministry, I was micromanaged. And micromanaging is not entrusting. Entrusting is allowing someone to come up with their way of doing whatever it is that's been asked. And I believe that when we've got a saying here at Hillsong College, we believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And every student hears it at orientation, and they have this little smile, smirk like, yeah, that can't be true. Then after 12 months with us, they realize it is true. And it's always because we entrust people with certain areas of ministry. And yeah, we'll look at how they're going and walk with them in that. But it's not this micromanagement that squeezes the life out of people. And so my prophetic word to Soul Church at this time, and certainly as we continue to regather back as leaders, think through, how are you as a leader when it comes to empowering people? How are you as a leader when it comes to encouraging people? How are you as a leader trusting people? And I believe that if you consider those three questions alone, when we regather in full, we can only get bigger. We can only grow. We can only expand our capacity, because as you grow, others grow. When you get bigger, we get bigger. Everything true of you is true of the community and family you're a part of. And so my word to you is to continue to go after all that God has for you. Be empowered, be encouraged, be entrusted. In Jesus' name, amen.
I love that, Lee. It's been good to chat and catch up, and
amen.
Yeah, see your handsome face. You're looking good as ever, and so it's been amazing.
You're looking younger than you were when you were here, and so obviously the church is looking after you.
Yeah, they're taking care of me all right. They love me a little bit, and so hey man, we live the dream, right? I have an amazing church family, and we get to do what God's called us to do. There's nothing better than what we get to do, in my opinion. So I love it, and I love what God's called us to do. And I just want to thank you so much for investing in us and giving us some of your time and energy and effort and thought. I love it, and I know our church is going to be completely blessed from it. So church, why don't you guys write in the little feed there, say, hey, thank you, Lee, and let's thank him for everything he poured into us today. It's been great chatting with you.
Likewise.
And
you, John, thanks for having me. And unfortunately, I couldn't be there in March because of COVID, but I look forward to possibly being there soon. And so,
soon enough, we'll have you back here, and it'll be amazing. So looking forward to it.
Amen. Love you guys.
Amazingly. Yeah, love you, man. Take it easy.
Thank you. Bless you.
Later.